After the 2023 presidential election, in which the Labour Party made a good showing, riding on the back of the obedient movement to come third with a total of 6,101,533 votes, it would have been expected that the party would consolidate its gains to become even stronger as a major opposition party. Unfortunately, however, rather than leverage on its 2023 election gains to galvanize Nigerians towards wresting power from the ruling All Progressives Congress in 2027, the party has enmeshed in unending crisis, which seems to have torn it apart, with different factions laying claim to its leadership. As things stand, and with politicians already campaigning openly for the 2027 general elections, which is still about 2 years away, stakeholders and Nigerians in general are asking questions. Will the Labour Party survive? Will it implode or dissolve into another party as politicians advance merger talks? Well, to help us understand this and more on the big story, we have joining us Mr. Anthony Aileman, BusinessDay's Assistant News Editor from our Abuja office. Welcome to the show, Mr. Aileman.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Very good to have you. Good morning. So let's walk to the past. Let's go to the past. So can you walk us through the root causes of the current leadership crisis within the Labour Party?
Oh, okay, thank you very much. It is quite unfortunate. What you are seeing is a direct result of the collapse of internal party democracy. Over the years, we have seen situations where political parties are not able to, allow smooth succession when the tenure of a particular set of elected leadership expires. It is exactly the same thing that is playing out now in the Labour Party. It is the collapse of internal party democracy. What do I mean? In 2023, by June, immediately after the general election, the Julius Aburi-led National Executive Committee, INEC, of the Labour Party were given a kind of 1-year moratorium to, restructure the party work, and then at the end of that tenure, the end of 1 year, they were supposed to organize an election that should have brought in a new set of party executives. Of course, it did not exclude those who were already there from contesting, but there were procedures that were necessary to be followed before you go for national convention of the party. But these procedures, from what we gathered here in Abuja, were ignored. The extent that before you go for national convention, Article 19 or thereabout of the Labour Party spells out how you can organize the national convention. First of all, you have to start by conducting what is generally known as ward, local government, state, and zonal congresses. At each stage of these congresses, executives are elected or delegates are elected. Delegate is the better word. Delegates are elected from one state, from the ward, that will go to the local government, get elected local government representatives that will move to the state. Then you will get to the state, you elect a fresh set of state representatives that will now move to the zonal level. At the zonal level, you also elect representatives that will go to the national convention. And at the national convention, you now elect the various executives of the party. But from what we heard, these processes were ignored. They were not properly followed. By March 2024, the Julius Aburi-led ESCO organize a convention that returned them to power without following these due processes. And it was at that point that many people wondered why such should have taken place. And that was the beginning of the problems that we have today. I think I stopped there for now.
Right. What we're seeing, Mr. Eleman, is that there seems to be competing factions claiming legitimacy. So who are the key players here and what claims do they have?
Good. Like I said, the claims are simple. Those who were returned in the March 2024 National Convention, as it were, are laying claim to be the authentic leadership of the Labour Party. Whereas those who disagreed with the processes that brought them to the office are saying, your tenure has ended, therefore, you should leave. This is just the simple claims that are going on right now. Your tenure has ended. Leave the state. Let a new set of executives be elected to run the party, because they were not comfortable with not following the due process, which also was acknowledged by INEC. INEC said they've never attended any of the so-called plans that produce the current NEC executive. So these are the issues that that are playing out. These are the claims. One group is saying your tenure has expired, and the other group is saying the authentic leaders. And talking about groups, the Labour Party is currently split into about 3 different groups. The group led by Julius Abure and his NEC members. You have the Nigerian Labor Congress, TUC group, that of course does not agree with the procedures that brought Abure into office this time around. And of course, you have the obedient group that constitute the largest, well, let me know, similar group in the Labour Party, who are also saying that they were excluded from the processes, the procedures that led to the emergence of this current executive. So what you now have is Abure on the one side and his NEC members, and you have the NSA, TUC, and you have the obedient group. And of course, the NLC TUC has Joe Ajero and the others. Joe Ajero, what they did was they had to constitute the political wing to rework the party itself so that there will be a fresh election that will produce new executive. And it was the same thing that the obedient group, which I, to my own understanding, is being led by Peter Obi, Dr. Alex Oti, the governor of Abia State. Yes, Abia State, sure. And Nenadi Usman, who they now came up with as the interim caretaker committee leadership of the party. Now, if you look at the 3 groups, Labour, TUC, and the obedient group are working in tandem. They've agreed to work together. But just to ensure that the new leadership emerges, the party is restructured ahead of 2027. So this is what we have at the moment.
Right, and you pointed out something and just really giving me like a sort of insight on this conflict and the three groups that we have present, the one led by Joe Ajero, the NLC-TUC group, and then the Julius Abure group, as well as the Obedient. But how has this internal conflict affected the party's ability to function effectively, both nationally and at the grassroots level?
Yes. You know, there is this adage that says when two elephants fight, the grass bears the brunt, the grass suffers. And don't forget that in politics, when you have a leadership problem, it will definitely affect the ability of the party to function effectively. Where we have gotten to now in Labour Party, or what the party has gotten to now, is so that there is crisis of confidence, and there is, of course, voices of dissent everywhere. Those who no longer believe in the leadership of Aburi, and by that particular development, it becomes difficult to, manage the party effectively from the grassroots, because you now have people who do not believe in the leadership of the party. And if you have such a situation, there will be challenges of patriotism, there will be challenges of commitment, and Nigeria political setting. You find out that very easily people will leave the party because they find it difficult to actualize their dreams and aspirations within the party. Don't forget, I started by saying that this is as a result of the collapse of internal democratic mechanism of the party. And every politician that goes into a political party as a member, card-carrying member, aspires to, gain one position or the other. They have a right to contest for any position that they so choose. They also have a right to vote for whoever they want to elect into any particular position. So where you don't give them that opportunity, what you have is a situation where the people loses confidence in what the party is doing. And of course, there will be division. So what we have seen so far is that the conflict has created a kind of very serious challenge for the party to function effectively, right from the grassroots to the national level. And that, of course, affects not only mobilization, it affects commitment, it affects even their own ability to stand as opposition party right now because of the challenges of internal crisis. And I take you back, if you permit me, just briefly.
Okay.
But yes, like you said when you were introducing the program itself, that the Labour Party was adjudged to be third in the 2023 general election. Third in the sense that they scored a total of 6,101 votes, 101,533 votes. Now, that was 25.4% of the total votes that were cast in 2023. And if you look at the performance of the party, they surprised political pundits that they could do so well, Obi contesting that election for the very first time. He took most of the key states. The party took Lagos, party took Abuja, took some states, Edo, Cross River, Nasarawa in the north, Plateau, and so on and so forth. Now, that meant that people came out en masse to follow that particular political party. They were interested in the presidential candidate. They had confidence in him. And that made them to overwhelmingly come out to support the Labour Party. And when you now have such support, the people, the obedient movement was purely an organic movement. It was a movement that was beyond description in terms of support for a particular person. So what now happened is, where you now have a crisis of confidence, many people who looked up to that party for new direction, new political thinking, new political values, new political ways of doing things, for that party to begin to have internal crisis and now descend to a level where what you see in the traditional political settings that have destroyed other political parties are now coming into this party and also ruining the party's chances for development and vibrancy and ability to challenge the ruling party as an opposition party. You also discover that people will begin to lose faith in the party. So that was why it was necessary for the party not to have descended to this level in the first instance.
Okay, Mr. Element, well, what exactly is the role of INEC and the courts in this dispute? Because I don't know if there's anything that's been done at this moment. Have they taken any definitive stance yet?
Yes. What do I mean? In June 2024, when they realized that the tenure of Aburi had expired, they wrote Labour Party and expressly informed him that your tenure has expired. That was after he had conducted that March convention, which returned him to office. Because INEC did not observe the congresses like I said earlier. So INEC now wrote to Labour Party in June that, look, Abure is no longer recognized by us, and by extension, the leadership of the Labour Party was no longer recognized by INEC. So when INEC did that, it was clear that Abure's tenure has ended. Because if they had taken Ireland, if they had done the right thing, INEC would have followed up from the grassroots or the congresses and to the eventual national convention that brought Abure up. So since they were not part of it, because they were not informed that it was not done properly, they wrote Labour Party. Now, when they wrote Labour Party now, it meant that they excluded in all their meetings with political parties chairmen, the Aburi-led ESCO of Labour Party were then excluded from their meetings until Abure now went to court. And as we speak, if you go to INEC portal, what you find out that when you see names of chairmen of political parties, you will find them elected. Abure's own, they say by court order. So they reinstated him by court order. So that was what INEC could do as an umpire, as what you say, a regulatory agency. And that, yes, that's the power they had, and that's what they have done so far. Now, don't forget, when the judiciary also made some pronouncements on April 2nd or thereabout, that the issues of the issue of leadership of the party was a direct responsibility of the internal affairs of the party. The Nenadi Usman-led group, because that was the Supreme Court judgment, that's the latest judgment from the Supreme Court. Nenadi Usman-led group took that judgment and went to INEC and placed it before INEC. This is what the court has said. But of course, you need to give them some time. As we speak, INEC has not, given any further directives. They have not said any other thing. So the party is waiting to hear from INEC as we speak.
Okay, so because we are pressed for time now, I have to ask you two questions before I let you go. The recent alleged suspension of Alex Oti of Abia State, who happens to be the only governor elected on the platform of the party, what actually led or triggered this alleged suspension?
Nothing other than what I have told you.
Okay.
When you have what happened was that when that election in March 2024 was conducted, and INEC now wrote to the party and said, we do not recognize the leadership. What they now did in September was that they now tried to see, how do we rescue our party? How do we realign? How do we rejig the party? How do we restructure this party? How do we reorganize the party? They now they had a meeting in Umuahia, made up of in a political party, when you talk about the National Executive Committee, there are the statutory members. And when you talk about statutory members, you talk about the president, if they had a president. You talk about either the former president, if they had one, vice president. You talk about the governors and the elected members in the National Assembly, elected members in the State House of Assembly, wherever they exist. These are the statutory members. It is the statutory members that met in Umuahia, plus some other who understand the workings of the party in September 2024, and took a firm decision to rescue the party, since Aburi refused to listen to INEC and the rest of the people. Said the best thing to do is to find a middle way approach to see how we can rescue the party. So they now set up or constituted a 24 members or thereabout caretaker committee headed by Nenadi Usman to interface with all the party members and then come up with the best way forward. So it was on the basis of that they went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court granted them judgment in April this year. So what you have seen is that the non-elected members, the statutory members of Labor-led, have been making effort to see how they can rescue the party. And these are the people who hold the party, really. Not members of the National Assembly, members of the State House of Assemblies, the executive of Abia State government. So this is exactly what you could say are the sins of Alex Oti.
Okay.
For taking this decision to help to restructure the party, because as it is right now, he is the leader of the party. He's the highest elected government official in the party. So he should play that role effectively. So these are the things that he has done, and those are the sins that now made Aburi-led group to now come up to bring down the sledgehammer on him and the other members of the senators in the National Assembly, who is also a member of the caretaker committee.
And what we also see these days is that the presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 presidential general election, Peter Obi is not actually seen doing as much as people would have expected him to do to steer the party's leadership. What do you think is the reason that Peter Obi seems to be?
Okay, I think that is not really correct. I have been following the trend and development in the party. You see, if you look at Peter Obi's personal disposition, he is somebody who believes in not rocking the boat. He's somebody who believes in bringing everybody together to see how we can structure the party in such a way that it's a platform that he believes so much in, that he wants to use, and he doesn't want to exclude anybody, not even Abure and the rest. So behind the scene, Obi has worked tirelessly. I can assure you that. I can tell you. I have attended some of their meetings where he had listed personal efforts to get Abure to work with the rest of the party. For instance, Obi is determined to ensure that nobody in the obedient movement, in fact, by now, Labour Party should have been stronger across the country. That was why I went to that memory lane to tell you how the spread, the Labour Party spread was in the 2023 general election. Labour Party should have leveraged on that result and established structures right from the local, from the world level to the national level. These are Obi's kind of thinking and his own perspective. Because in 2027, you are going to see a kind of a reaction from Nigerians based on the way this internal crisis of the party is handled. And he doesn't want to lose what he has so far by not putting his house together first. So he has been working assiduously behind the scene. At the last meeting of the statutory members of NEC that was held at Transcorp Hilton, you could see the pain that he expressed, that personally he reached out to Aburi and his group. I said, look, work with Alex Oti and the others, and the Labour Party, the NLC and the TUC. Unite everybody. You are a leader. If the people say they don't want you, it's not a do or die affair. Leave the stage. In fact, Alex Oti went further to tell us, that is after Obi finished speaking, that they offered Abure the position of chairman of the board of trustees. If the people say Abure tenure has ended and they don't want him returned as chairman, give him the position of board of trustees chairmanship, so that they can restructure the party from the grassroots and build it up to the national level. So it is not true that Obi has not been working. Obi is a workaholic person. I'm sorry to say, I mean, this is what I have seen about the man.
Absolutely.
Believe me.
Absolutely. But looking ahead now, what steps are being considered to resolve this crisis and to restore unity within this party before the 2027 general elections?
Thank you very much. You see, again, it brings us again to what I said about the former presidential candidate of Labour Party. Some people within the organized labor, when I say organized labor, I'm talking about the labor unions, the NLC, TUC. You know how they operate? Yes. They had wanted to go to the party secretariat in Abuja and chase out, you see the word chase out. You know, there was a time we wrote stories that they wanted to invade the party headquarters. They were told not to take that route, not to use that kind of method to achieve whatever results they are looking for. So what has been done and which is still going on is a kind of process of reconciliation and trying to find a middle ground approach that will not allow Labour Party to play into the hands of those who want to destroy the party. And you know what I mean. You see, opposition in Nigeria is not finding it easy. So the party is careful not to create an opportunity for the enemies to break the party. They've been doing it for a long time. You remember the Apapa saga. They had tried to use Apapa to destroy the party, to break the party, and they couldn't succeed. So now it is the problem of the internal issue. So what they have done is that the caretaker committee is working, and by last Thursday, they had announced, last Monday, they had announced that there was going to be very soon a comprehensive national data, approach to building the party again from the scratch.
From the scratch, okay.
From the world level. We are going to start world registration, open up the register for any Nigerian that want to register in the party. So when they finish, they will now conduct world congresses, they will conduct local government congresses, they will conduct state, and then get to zonal level and produce people that will come for national convention properly, so that all these issues of acrimonies and problems and then all other issues are laid to rest. So this is exactly where they are right now. Of course, the court had told them that it is the leadership is an internal affairs of the party, so the party wants to ensure that they handle it the best way they can to restructure the party and bring Labour Party back again the way it was pre-2023.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Anthony Aileman. We will definitely keep our fingers crossed and hope that things pan out positively for the Labour Party. Thank you for spending your time this morning with us on The Big Story.
It is indeed my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Right, that's where we'll bring it to close here on The Big Story on the BDTV Breakfast Show. My name is Elizabeth Musa. Keep watching BDTV.